The world wants to break free of the dollar. And when the move comes from oil-rich countries, it's an existential matter for the United States. What would be the US if the world doesn't need its dollars? If it can't ransom the energy security, how would the world live in fear of the United States? Is the jungle no longer in awe of the king? Does nobody fear the claws of the big cat? Welcome to yet another edition of WiseHeads. I'm your host, Ashish Shukla. The 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg dropped a few bombshells. Nothing was as humongous as 6 new nations joining the existing 5 of Russia, China, India, Brazil, and South Africa. The new members are Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Argentina. This is a massive move, one of the biggest of this century, which could turn our world upside down. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, and Russia on one side are almost 45% of world's oil producers and traders. If Venezuela, Algeria, and Kazakhstan, etc. join in BRICS 2024, it would amount to 90% of energy market out of the US orbit. As one knows, in 1973, the United States and King Faisal of Saudi Arabia had forged a pact which made dollar the currency to buy energy. It made dollars and the United States indispensable to the world. It freed the US from pegging dollar to gold or anything else. The US could print the green buck whenever it wanted to. It also meant that the US could drown in debt yet be unafraid, as it could print dollars on whim. Dollar also became an instrument through which the United States could boss its Western allies and terrorize the other nations with. A piece of paper became real money when the world traded in dollars. When the world needed debt, the US could manipulate global financial institutions such as the IMF and World Bank to do exactly as it wanted. As the United States grew more and more powerful and rich, it could ignore the United Nations and twist international laws as per its needs. The world bore this crushing burden till the Ukraine conflict happened. The US slapped sanctions after sanctions on Russia, which meant that the grain and energy of Russia and its metals were out of bounds for the world. Since the world traded in US-made global architecture, such as its dollar, its SWIFT system, the insurance and transport which went with global trade, the US sanctions on Russia meant the rest of the world suffered too. What made things worse for the rest of the world was that in case you foul of the United States, your assets could be seized, as it has been the case with first Iran, then Afghanistan, and now Russia. All of a sudden, both keeping your debt in dollars and keeping your wealth in dollars became a risky existential proposition. The US could snuff the life out of a nation by snapping its windpipe in an instant. However, things didn't go as planned for the United States. Neither Vladimir Putin suffered an internal revolt, nor Russia appeared to be losing the conflict against Ukraine. In Russia's defiance, the rest of the world saw its own hope of becoming free from external interference. It couldn't understand why it can't buy Russian wheat or oil only because something was happening in Ukraine. The global South now needed a forum, an umbrella under which they could come together. And this umbrella became the BRICS. And all of a sudden, the world rushed to join the BRICS. There have been 44 applications thus far, and then there are others who, without joining it, wish to use the BRICS Bank for its less stringent conditions than an IMF or a World Bank. Out of these 44 requests, the core BRICS has now given nod to 6 nations, which, as I mentioned, are Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, UAE, and Argentina. Already the oil trade between China and Iran and China and Saudi Arabia and China and Russia are worth billions of dollars and is conducted in Chinese currency yuan. The BRICS nations have resolved to trade in local currency as much as it is possible. They are not shunning dollar, but they are not pursuing other options. That is not true also. They are pursuing other options. They are reducing their dependence on dollars, as Saudi Arabia now has its lowest investment in US Treasury for years. The UAE has just recently sold off its wealth worth $4 billion. Who knows if India tomorrow begins buying Saudi oil in rupee and not in dollars? It is not now, but it could be the word against the West in near future. As the US would weaken without dollar supremacy, the resolve of the rest of the world would grow in equal proportion. It would leave the United States with two options. Either it strikes at recalcitrant nation with its military might, or it gets the whiff of the changing world and accepts its own space in the Committee of Global Village without trying to intimidate others. Both options are wrought with potential catastrophe. If the US tries to flex its muscle, it can't do it against everyone in one go. If it uses suffocating sanctions on others, the anti-US sentiment would only grow to a bursting point. If it tries to be diplomatic and look for reconciliation and a reduced role in global affairs, it would be like getting off the tiger's back it has been riding all this while. But then if you get off the tiger's back, it won't be long before the claws of tigers would leap at your throat. The truth is, it would be impossible for Washington to stop this march striking at its roots. What's now 6 new members would grow exponentially in coming years. BRICS now already has 7 members in G20 forum. If the likes of Mexico and Indonesia join BRICS, the US could find itself in minority in G20. It would be a cruel realization that all your financial might, your military might, and the control you have on media has amounted to little. That the hegemony of the last 500 years of the Western world is coming to an end. It would be foolish if Washington feels that New Delhi would be on its side against the tornado which is building up against it. If forced for a choice, Modi's India would prefer Global South any day than to be a vassal of the United States. Today's India cherishes its independent foreign policy, neutrality, and peace posturing. It needs Washington for its money and the goodies. It also doesn't wish to prick Washington beyond a point where the hegemon creates anarchy and unrest through its assets embedded in the system. But when the push would come to a show, which I suspect would come sooner than later, one would find India standing with the Global South and not at the feet of the West. The force presently is with the BRICS and Global South. There is no reason India would abandon it for a momentary relief, more so when India has played a critical role itself in BRICS evolution. This is all in today's edition of WiseHeads. Please do like and subscribe our channel. This is your host Ashish Shukla, now bidding a goodbye to you till we see each other again soon. Stay healthy, stay strong, and goodbye.